Welcome to Sleeping Scientist, where science meets serenity. Water wave tonight, we're not studying the deep sea, we're becoming part of it. Tropical fish drift gently beneath the surface, as the world above fades away. Thought balloon, let go of stress, let your breath slow, and allow the deep blue to carry you far into the quiet unknown. Milky Way, this isn't just sleep, it's a peaceful voyage into the mysteries of the ocean, guided by the calm of a scientist's dream. They say that when the world grows quiet and the stars begin to hum, a path appears just beyond the edges of sleep. It's not made of stone or wood, but of memory, dreams, and the soft light of the moon. No one knows exactly where it begins, or how long it's been there. But some believe it appears only to those who need it most. Lena was one of those people. She wasn't special in the way stories often claim. She didn't have magical powers, or a hidden destiny waiting to be discovered. But she had something else, something quieter. She had curiosity, and a heart that longed for peace. And sometimes, that's all the universe needs. It was the end of a long day, one filled with the kind of noise that never seemed to stop. The world had been loud: school, people, screens, worries, and her thoughts were louder still. So she did what she often did when the day felt too heavy. She opened her window and climbed out onto the rooftop, where the sky felt wide and soft, and the stars blinked like old friends. She lay down, hands beneath her head, and stared up. The wind was gentle. The moon was nearly full. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked, and then all was still. And then, something shimmered. It wasn't a sound. Not exactly. More like a feeling, like the air itself had taken a deep breath and was holding it. Lena blinked. At the edge of the rooftop, where there had only been air a moment before, now stretched a narrow silver path. It glowed faintly, like moonlight on water, and stretched out into the sky. It didn't seem solid, and yet, it waited. She sat up, heart beating quietly. She didn't call for anyone. She didn't take her phone. She simply stood, took a breath, and stepped forward. And the moment her foot touched the path, the rooftop, the city, the noise, all of it faded into silence. She walked. At first, there was nothing but the path and the sky. Stars swirled slowly above her. Below, mist curled and flowed like rivers of cloud. The air was warm and cool all at once, and each step felt like floating. The path twisted and curved, but never wobbled. It felt alive, like it knew where she was meant to go. After some time, minutes, hours, she saw something ahead. A light. A doorway, maybe. As she approached, the light shifted. It wasn't a building or a house. It was a tree. A single, massive tree growing out of the clouds, its leaves glowing with soft blues and silvers. Beneath it sat a figure. They looked up as Lena arrived. Not startled, just expectant. "Welcome," the figure said. Their voice was neither male nor female, neither young nor old. It was like wind through leaves. "Where am I?" Lena asked. "You've stepped onto the moonlight path," they replied. "It only appears to those who are ready to dream deeply." Lena frowned gently. "But I'm already asleep." "Not quite. This place is between waking and dreaming. Between day and night. It is where stories rest and where wonder begins." Lena looked around. The tree's leaves moved as if stirred by music only it could hear. "May I sit?" she asked. "Of course." She sat beside the figure, and for a moment, they were silent together. "Will you tell me a story?" she asked quietly. The figure smiled. "I will show you one." And they reached out, touched a glowing leaf from the tree, and the world changed. Suddenly, Lena was no longer on the path. She was standing in a forest that shimmered with silver fog. The air smelled of pine and something sweet she couldn't name. Beside her stood a small animal, a fox with fur like night sky and eyes that glowed like stars. "Follow me," said the fox, and she did. They walked through forests where the trees whispered secrets, over bridges made of woven light, and through meadows where flowers opened only under moonlight. At every turn, Lena felt calmer, softer, like her worries were being gently unstitched from her. "Where are we going?" she asked once. "To remember," said the fox. "Remember what?" But the fox only trotted ahead. They came to a lake. The surface was so still it looked like a mirror. The fox stepped onto it, and instead of sinking, walked across as though it were solid. Lena hesitated, then followed. As she walked, the lake reflected not her face, but her memories. She saw herself as a small child, laughing in the rain. She saw a time she had helped a friend who was sad. She saw her fears, too, but they didn't feel sharp here. They felt like something she had outgrown. At the center of the lake was a lantern, floating, waiting. The fox nodded. "Take it." She reached out. The moment her fingers touched the lantern, a warmth bloomed in her chest. Not heat, something deeper. A glow. "You carry more light than you know," the fox said. And just like that, the lake faded. She was back beneath the glowing tree. The figure was still beside her, eyes closed as if listening to music only they could hear. The lantern was in her hands. "You remembered," the figure said. "Now you are ready to go deeper." "Deeper?" They nodded. And the path reappeared, stretching forward into new stars, into new dreams. Lena stood. She looked down at the lantern, now glowing faintly, gently. She turned to the figure. "Will I see you again?" "If you keep walking." So she did. The path curved again, and with each step, Lena felt lighter. The air shimmered, and the stars above began to shift, forming new patterns that felt like messages. She didn't need to read them. She felt them. And far ahead, something was waiting. She didn't know what. But her heart was calm. And so she walked. Lena continued walking along the moonlight path, the lantern in her hand casting a soft glow ahead. The path twisted gently through the stars, winding like a ribbon of thought. Every few steps, the stars above shifted slightly, showing her constellations she had never seen before. Some looked like animals, others like keys. One looked like a door. As she walked, the silence deepened, but it was not empty. It was the kind of quiet that hummed softly with meaning. A peaceful kind of quiet, like the sky was breathing. Eventually, the path widened slightly, and Lena came upon something unusual, a bridge made entirely of floating feathers. They shimmered in soft shades of white, blue, and gold. The feathers held together as if woven by invisible hands. Waiting at the center of the bridge stood a tall, gentle creature. It looked almost like a heron, but taller than a person, with long wings folded behind its back and deep, patient eyes. "Welcome, dream traveler," it said, bowing slightly. Lena smiled, holding her lantern gently. "Where am I now?" "You are crossing into the memory winds," the heron replied. "Here, the stories of the sky are kept safe." She stepped onto the feather bridge. It held her weight without a sound. "Why do I need to cross?" she asked. "Because your story is still unfolding," said the heron, "and some parts of you are waiting to be remembered." The bridge swayed slightly as she moved. Below, there was no sky or ground, just a swirl of slow-moving mist, like clouds thinking quietly to themselves. Halfway across, a gust of soft wind rose up from below. In it, she heard voices not loud or sharp, but like echoes of laughter, whispers, and lullabies. She turned to the heron. "Those are memories," it said. "Some yours, some the world's. Let them pass through you." She closed her eyes. For a moment, she heard her mother singing to her as a baby. Then a moment of sunlight on her skin during a walk she barely remembered. A stranger smiling at her. The sound of her own laughter echoed from a time she thought was lost. When she opened her eyes again, the feathers of the bridge shimmered gold. The heron bowed again. "You have crossed with grace." And with that, the bridge faded behind her, and she stepped onto a new part of the path, this one lined with glowing stones. Up ahead stood something like a gate, made not of metal or wood, but of woven music. The notes floated in the air, forming archways and circles that moved like breathing light. As she approached, the notes shifted and formed a door. It opened soundlessly. Inside was a vast garden, quiet and endless. Trees with silver leaves swayed gently. Flowers glowed with soft pulses. The air smelled like memories of spring. She wandered gently among the plants, and each one seemed to respond to her presence. A vine curled playfully as she passed. A flower leaned toward her like it wanted to listen. In the center of the garden was a table, and at the table sat 3 small figures. They were shaped like people, but made of light and cloth, like soft dolls come to life. They looked up as she approached. "Would you like some tea?" asked the smallest one. Lena hesitated, then smiled. "Yes, thank you." She sat with them. The tea tasted like comfort, like warm blankets and kind eyes. "You're carrying a lantern," said the tallest doll. "Yes," she replied. "I was told it holds my light. Do you know how to use it?" She shook her head. "You don't use it," said the middle doll. "You trust it." They all nodded at the same time, as if they had rehearsed it. After tea, they led her to the edge of the garden, where a door of woven vines waited. It opened for her. "Where does this go?" she asked. "To the part of your dream that is older than you are," said the smallest one. Lena stepped through. On the other side was a forest of lanterns. Thousands of them, all glowing softly. Some hung from branches of invisible trees. Others floated just above the ground. She walked among them, feeling their warmth. Each lantern whispered something different, a word, a feeling, a song. One of them called her name. She turned, reached for it, and as her fingers brushed its side, the world shifted again. She was no longer walking. She was floating. Floating through a vast sky filled with whales. Sky whales, drifting like gentle clouds, their long bodies glowing with constellations. One of them turned its massive head to look at her and sang a note that made her heart ache with beauty. She reached out. The whale leaned closer. On its back was a garden, a place to sit. She climbed aboard. From the whale's back, she could see more of the path stretching below and ahead. In the distance, lights shimmered, cities in the sky. She sat and let the wind wash over her. The whale hummed, and the hum was a story. It spoke of times before time, of people who dreamed in color, of places where songs grew like trees. She didn't need to understand. She only needed to feel. And she did. Eventually, the whale brought her gently to a floating platform. Made of stardust and old dreams, it sparkled beneath her feet. At the center was a door. It didn't look magical. Just wooden. Old. Familiar. She walked to it. "Are you ready?" asked a voice, one she couldn't see, but somehow trusted. "I think so," she said. And she opened the door. Inside was a room filled with mirrors. But they didn't show her reflection. Each mirror showed a different version of her. One laughing. One crying. One dancing. One sleeping. One old. One young. She stepped closer. The mirrors shimmered, then vanished. And in their place stood a single candle. She picked it up. Its flame joined the lantern's glow. She felt whole. And in that moment, she understood. This dream wasn't about finding something. It was about remembering she was already enough. The candle warmed her from within. The path ahead appeared once more. She turned and walked forward, softer than before, her light brighter. The moon above blinked slowly, like it was watching. Somewhere far ahead, the stars pulsed gently, waiting. Lena stepped back onto the moonlight path, the candle in one hand, the lantern in the other. Their soft lights blended into a warm glow, casting gentle shadows that danced around her feet. The path ahead had changed. It was no longer straight or curved, but seemed to rise and fall like the rhythm of her breath. The stars above no longer blinked as individuals. Now, they moved together like a slow tide of light across a cosmic sea. The path pulsed beneath her with each step, as if recognizing her growing presence, her clarity, her calm. There was a quiet hum in the air. Not music, not voice. Just the sound of being. She walked. After some time, or perhaps no time at all, she arrived at a hill of soft velvet. Not grass, not stone, just softness. A gentle incline that led to a single, glowing pool at the top. The pool reflected nothing. Not the stars, not the moon, not even her light. It just glowed. Beside it sat an old man, his beard long, his eyes kind and tired in a comforting way. "Hello," Lena said softly. "Ah," said the man, smiling without looking up. "The girl who carries both flame and glow." She sat beside him. "Where am I now?" she asked. "In the place where silence teaches," he replied. They both looked at the pool. It didn't ripple. It didn't change. "It's still," she whispered. "It listens," he said. "And it waits." "For what?" "For you." She frowned gently. "Do you see?" he asked. She looked at the pool again. Then something shimmered. Instead of reflections, the pool began to show moments, fleeting scenes from her life. A time she forgave someone. A time she stood quietly beside a friend. A time she kept going, even when no one noticed. "These don't feel important," she said. "They are the roots of your light," the man replied. The pool shifted again. Now she saw strangers she had smiled at. Teachers who had once encouraged her. A tree she had sat beneath. A song she had hummed when she was sad. These are small things. All great things are made of small things. She watched quietly. And with each image, she felt her breath slow, her heartbeat calm. The old man stood. "You have seen enough," he said. "The path moves again." She stood too, and bowed slightly. The man simply nodded, then stepped into the pool and vanished like mist. The pool faded. The hill became mist. The path reappeared. She walked on. Ahead, the stars formed arches one after another, like gateways to deeper dreaming. Each one shimmered as she passed beneath it. With each arch, her steps grew lighter, her thoughts quieter, her spirit warmer. Eventually, the path opened into a field of bells. Thousands of them. Some hung from invisible strings in the air. Some sat nestled in soft moss. Each was different colors, shapes, sizes, but all of them rang with the same soft tone. Lena stepped into the field. The bells began to chime. Not loudly. Not in alarm, but in recognition. The tones echoed into one another, weaving a lullaby that had no beginning and no end. And with it came memories, not hers this time but from others. She felt a mother humming beside a crib, a child learning to walk, a grandfather telling a story, a friend waiting at a hospital door. She stood in the middle of it all. "What is this place?" she whispered. "It is the echo of kindness," said a voice behind her. She turned. There stood a girl, or a woman, or something in between. She wore a dress made of petals and wind. "This is where every act of kindness lives on," the girl said. "Even when forgotten." Lena blinked. "That's real." The girl smiled. "Everything here is real. Just not in the way you're used to." She reached out and touched one of the bells. It chimed, and with it, a memory bloomed in Lena's chest. She had once shared her umbrella with someone who didn't ask. She had forgotten. But the world hadn't. She touched another bell. She had once given a classmate a quiet compliment when no one else noticed. One more. She had smiled at a cashier who looked tired. And it had mattered. Lena felt tears, but not sadness. Just fullness. "You've left ripples behind you," the girl said gently. "Even in places you never turned to look." "Why show me this?" Lena asked. "So you know you are never alone," said the girl. "And that every small light you carry, carries forward." Then the bells grew silent again, not gone, just resting. The girl stepped back into the field, becoming petals on the wind. And the path appeared once more. Lena walked. The path grew darker now, but not frightening. Just quieter. Like it needed space to breathe. Then she saw it. A door made of woven thread. When she touched it, it unraveled gently, becoming a warm blanket of night. On the other side was a hallway of floating windows. Each window looked into a dream, not her own, but others. She saw a child dreaming of stars. A man dreaming of forgiveness. A woman dreaming of dancing. A bird dreaming of flying through a storm. The dreams drifted like fireflies, quiet and undisturbed. At the end of the hallway, a small figure waited. It was a child herself, perhaps. Or someone like her. They held a key. "This opens the next part," said the child. Lena took the key. The door opened into a library. Books floated in the air, pages turning themselves. There were no shelves, just soft clouds to rest the stories on. The air smelled like memory and imagination. One book drifted toward her. It opened. It had no words. Just light. "Some stories are felt, not read," said a voice. She let the light from the book fall across her hands, and it felt like hope. Then another book opened. It showed her a moment that hadn't happened yet, a moment she would one day live. A moment of quiet bravery. And then another, her sitting beside someone who needed company, saying nothing, just being there. She smiled. And the path appeared once more. She walked. The air now felt heavier, but not in a burdensome way. It was the weight of truth. She came upon a small lake. In the center floated a boat made of woven feathers and light. She stepped inside. The boat carried her across the lake without sound. In the center of the lake, the sky above opened into a swirl of galaxies. Stars spun in spirals, and for a moment, she felt the size of everything. Tiny, but not unimportant. Part of something beautiful. She whispered thank you. The sky pulsed in reply. On the far side of the lake, the boat rested gently on soft sand. She stepped out. Ahead, the path wound upward, toward a glowing hill. On top, she saw a tree. It was the same tree she had seen at the start. The figure sat beneath it. "You've returned," they said. "Have I finished?" she asked. "You've remembered," they replied. "Now you may rest." She sat beside them. The stars above twinkled softly, blinking slower now. The lantern and candle still glowed. "You have walked the dream," they said. "And it has walked with you." She closed her eyes. Not to sleep, but to be still. And in that stillness, a soft breeze carried her deeper, gentler, into peace. Lena sat beneath the tree of starlight, beside the quiet figure who had welcomed her at the beginning. Time no longer moved here. Or if it did, it flowed like warm honey, slow, gentle, and kind. Above them, the stars pulsed in a quiet rhythm, and the breeze carried whispers from dreams she had already lived. "You've come far," said the figure, watching the sky. "You've remembered much." Lena looked down at the lantern and candle beside her. Their glow was no longer separate, it had blended into a soft golden light that pulsed with her breath. "Is this the end?" she asked. "Of this path?" "Yes," said the figure. "But not the end of your dreaming." She lay back on the grass, which felt more like cloud, and let her hands rest on her stomach. The air smelled like gentle rain and wildflowers, even though she saw neither. "Will I forget this when I wake?" she asked. "You'll forget the details," the figure said. "But not the feeling." Lena smiled faintly. "That's enough," she whispered. And for a long time, she was silent. But the path wasn't done with her yet. As she rested, A soft glow appeared in the distance. At first, she thought it was just a star, but it grew. A warm light in the shape of a doorway. Not calling. Not urging. Just waiting. The figure stood slowly. "You don't have to go," they said. "But if you do, you'll meet something unexpected." Lena sat up. Her heart didn't race. It hummed. She stood, took her light, and walked toward the doorway. It opened on its own. Inside was a room made of paper. Thousands of paper walls. Some blank. Some filled with writing. Some torn. Some folded into cranes. The floor was ink. Liquid, but solid beneath her. In the center stood a mirror. This one, finally, showed her reflection. But it was different. She was herself, but surrounded by shapes of light. Words, memories, people, moments, all orbiting her softly like moons. Then, a quiet voice spoke, not from the mirror, not from the air, but from within her. "You are the dreamer and the dream." She blinked. "You are the path and the traveler." The voice faded, but the meaning lingered. The room began to fold itself away, pages folding into stars, walls crumpling into leaves. She stood alone once again. But now she knew something she hadn't before. That every quiet kindness she gave, every wonder she felt, every time she paused to breathe, those were not small. They were seeds. And this place, the moonlight path, was where those seeds bloomed. The path reappeared, now glowing brighter than ever. Not because it led somewhere new, but because it reflected what she had become. As she walked, the stars leaned closer, almost like they were listening. She passed old friends again, the lantern field, the bell meadow, the feather bridge, all quiet now, like memories gently resting. She returned to the sky whale, who nodded slowly in her direction as she passed. She saw the dolls again, sitting quietly in their garden, sipping invisible tea and smiling. And then, at last, she reached the place where the path had first appeared at the edge of the rooftop. She was back. The city below was still quiet. The moon hung full above her. But something had changed. Inside her, the light glowed gently. Not loud, not brilliant, but steady. She looked up at the sky. The path was no longer visible, but she knew it was still there, waiting. She turned toward the window to climb back inside her room but paused. On the ledge, someone else stood. A small boy, wide-eyed, holding a tiny glowing stone. He looked lost. Lena smiled. "Don't worry," she said softly. "You're not alone." She reached out a hand. He hesitated, then took it. And in that moment, the moonlight path shimmered once more, just faintly, like a breath. Lena is now a guide on the path for others. A new child, a new journey, and perhaps, new mysteries about the moonlight path itself.